Hello everyone and welcome to the first ever Six Things video. My name is Alex and I'm a member of the team here at the channel dedicated to summarising and opinionising all things in the sporting world. My speciality is in professional wrestling, and every week I'll be here to present to you 6 things that you need to know about last night's Raw. Without further ado, let's get this underway. So the main talking point from Monday Night Raw last night is Sasha Banks is back. The boss is back on Monday nights. The segment took place when Natalya headed out to the ring in Toronto and said she tapped out. And something that early on confused me a little bit is the fans were chanting, "You tapped out." And I was thinking, well, what's Natalya done wrong? And then she explained that her dad had died a year ago today and that she'd had this dream where Jim the Anvil Snyder, obviously her late dad, had come and visited her and said that he's so proud of it. And I thought it was quite a nice moment. But as she was explaining that, Sasha Banks' music hit. She headed out with a purple hair at this point, got in the ring, had a moment with Natalya, said, he's so proud of you, pointed up to the skies and the heavens before turning heel and smacking Natalya. Becky Lynch would then head out to fight, and I've never been so happy to see her in my life. Usually she's a bit boring and bland for my liking, but then she found herself on the receiving end of a chair shot, and she actually took a really nasty chair shot to the back of the head. Someone in the front row on Twitter posted that, and she caught like the rim of the chair in the back of her neck, which was a little uncomfortable to watch. And yes, I will openly admit that Sasha Banks is a better heel. She's a much more natural heel. And they were running out of challenges on Monday Night Raw for Becky Lynch, hence perhaps why Natalya was thrown in the spot in the first place. And furthermore, the whole segment was oriented around death. You can't, in wrestling, use real-life deaths. It's just uncomfortable. They did this with Ruby Riott and Natalya, and it was uncomfortable back at TLC, and of course the Paige and Charlotte one was really unpleasant. They try this, and they always try this, and it never works. For some reason, they kind of glanced over it a bit, and I think it's because Ruby Riott has already done all the Jim the Anvil stuff. But in all honesty, I still found it a little uncomfortable, to actually really uncomfortable, and didn't enjoy the segment on a whole. Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles was the main event of the evening. It broke out of the opening segment where Styles laid down the challenge to Rollins. In all honesty, this was an underwhelming main event, and it kind of left a bad taste in what I thought was an alright show. However, the Seth Rollins AJ Styles match ended in disqualification when the OCs got in the ring. Then Ricochet came out to try and make the save for Seth Rollins, got beaten up, and finally Braun Strowman would charge out and save Seth Rollins. And I thought with The Fiend, who's obviously going to SmackDown Live, and Brock Lesnar in the city, we know they're both in the city, why the hell none of them got a feature on the show, and Braun Strowman did. When Braun Strowman, as much as he was very good at Extreme Rules and very good in Saudi Arabia with Bobby Lashley, he's just boring, and I don't really want to see Rollins and Strowman have a feud. At the end, Strowman passed the Universal Championship to Seth Rollins, and it was almost a moment of, at Clash of Champions, we're going to see Rollins and Strowman, which to me is a 15-minute match I'm not particularly invested in. So a slightly lackluster end to Monday Night Raw. Next up, I'd like to talk about Drew McIntyre versus Cedric Alexander. For me, by far, match of the night. I'm so happy that Cedric Alexander got his own entrance. It felt less jobberish, and I am happy that Drew McIntyre picked up the victory because he had taken some high-profile losses. He lost to Kevin Owens on an edition of SmackDown Live, and he'd lost to Cedric Alexander. But this match was absolutely filled with great spots. At one point, Cedric Alexander went for a running cutter, sort of flipped his momentum into a DDT, which Drew McIntyre spiked on his head. There was a spin-out side slam off the top rope, which absolutely would break a man in half. There was a lumbar check from Cedric Alexander. Of course, that's the double knees to the back, Cedric Alexander's finishing move on the outside of the ring. And it's kind of it's one of those when they do a move on the outside of the ring that makes no difference because he's still landing on Alexander's knees, but it looked good, and you still buy into the fact that it's outside the ring. Cedric Alexander went for a suicide dive and got caught with a belly-to-belly and was belly-to-belly suplexed onto the steel grate, or just about missed the steel grate. And the thing that got me is there was a super Spanish fly. So that, of course, Spanish fly off the top rope. Cedric Alexander delivered it to Drew McIntyre. And, you've seen him do that with Buddy Murphy or Mustafa Ali, or Ali, or whatever they've changed his name to now. But, when you see it with a big 6'5" guy, I think Drew McIntyre is, it's just really sort of awe-inspiring. And fair play to Drew McIntyre for taking that. The match ended when there was an inverted Alabama Slammer attempt from Drew McIntyre. Cedric Alexander would roll through into a victory roll. There'd be a kick out. McIntyre would hit the ropes as quick as he could and deliver an absolutely earth-shattering Claymore. Something that Twitter was going through a frenzy about is the return of the King of the Ring tournament. And a few thoughts on this. The tournament is not what it once was. Obviously, the days when Stone Cold 316 was winning King of the Ring is very different to when King Barrett took the throne. However, it's exciting to have a tournament next week. 8 men from Raw, 8 men from SmackDown Live. My question is when's there going to be a Queen of the Ring tournament? I think it's a well overdue a Queen of the Ring tournament to declare the first ever Queen of the Ring, of course. So, but King of the Ring's coming, and someone was so kind on Twitter to actually cut down the video package of the 16 faces featured in the video that I can believe are in the tournament. That is The Miz, Ricochet, Drew McIntyre, Ali, Kevin Owens, Chad Gable, Andrade, Shelton Benjamin, Sami Zayn, Cedric Alexander, Baron Corbin, Apollo Crews, Cesaro, Elias, Samoa Joe, and my man, Buddy Murphy, who's coming for it, even though he's going to job out to Roman tomorrow night on SmackDown. Come on, Buddy Murphy. And now to go through all the other results from Monday Night Raw. In the opening contest, Samoa Joe squashed Sami Zayn with a Gokida clutch in just over a minute. I wrote, who remembers their 1 hour match in NXT? Yeah, me neither. Shame Sami Zayn's jobbed out like this. Ricochet beat Elias with a sunset flip off the second rope with Elias' shoulders not being down. So it was an unfair officiating decision protecting Elias, even though he's not the kind of superstar that needs that. No Way Jose fell short to Robert Roode with a glorious DDT, and I liked No Way Jose's attire. I wrote, nice camera going. I hope that's picked up by WWE 2K20. The Viking Raiders beat Carton Mason and Sebastian Suave in a squash match. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross would retain the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships against the Kabuki Warriors, with their manager Paige being absent due to neck surgery. Thanks for watching, guys. Again, I've been Alex from 6 Things, and please like, share and subscribe below. And join me next week for 6 Things you need to know about Monday Night Raw.